Hello, good afternoon. My name is Jutta Steiner. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Parity Technologies. At Parity, what we're doing is developing open source software for a better internet, building on new cryptography, new peer-to-peer technologies, in providing these technologies to the world, I guess. If you've heard about us, you might have heard about some of our work. So notably, our work on Ethereum, where we basically power these days, to a large extent, the public Ethereum network. The work that my co-founder, Gavin Wood, did early on Ethereum, where he developed the first implementation and protocol. You might have also heard about our work on the World Food Programme's aid system, where we supply around or more than 100,000 refugees these days, with I think the biggest consortium network deployment of blockchains, where they can use that in order to receive aid and buy supplies in camps. But more recently, we've started a new project called Polkadot and Substrate, where we're working on basically the third generation of blockchain technologies, and I'll speak a bit more about what that means in detail. So, what we're really trying to do is come up with a totally new way of building applications online, a lot more peer-to-peer, with much more control, where people actually know and own their data, where they have a lot more autonomy than they have these days, a lot more agency when they interact with friends, with governments, with whoever is online. But let's go for a moment back to 1992. What went wrong? Back then, 1992, I guess terms like the information superhighway, internet addict were a bit similar to ICOs and blockchain buzzwords these days. It all felt like really empowering, really rare, really raw, really like a lot of excitement. But the issue, and I think that's what many people overlooked, is that while the internet changed our lives, and like in particular high street, I mean, there's no record shops anymore, like sometimes you come across them with vinyl. What really happened is, it feels like it changed a lot, but in fact, all the issues we have in societies got really imprinted on the internet again, like a lot of power in the hands of even fewer people, big conglomerates, big corporates that hold the user's data, where there's no escape really. And it's all harder, faster, because it's all digital, automated, more obscure, nobody really knows what's going on. So it's really this problem of intermediaries that we care about, the fact that when we interact online, all we can do is go through a service provider, through Google, through Facebook, through WhatsApp. I don't know if you still remember like when you installed the first apps on your phone, but I still vividly remember how I installed WhatsApp on my phone. It was like, oh, a friend told me about it. Do you want to send me a message on WhatsApp? It sounded cool, installed it. But then it asked me to share my whole address book. And it's like, really? All my ex-boyfriends, doctors, is that really necessary? And back then even, WhatsApp still had a paying business model, like $1 or something per year. So that's what I mean when I talk about intermediaries, like the fact that we have to go through a service provider while we want to do something that's really personal, like talking to a friend. And the problem with that is that fundamentally the tools that we have are broken or not sufficient. In the end, we have to rely on trust and extend a lot of trust, that what those services providers say is what they really do. And we've seen a lot of examples where that hasn't been the case. Like we've seen the Snowden revelations more than 5 years ago. We've seen all what we've heard about Facebook in the last year. And really, those Goliath services, even though sometimes they start out with big promises, big missions like don't do evil, won't do evil. In the end, all that they are bound to is their shareholders, the fact that they have to make money, and the local rulers, whoever that may be. So the truth is, unless we have better tools that provide a backstop to what power can do in those circumstances, we just magnify further and further the problems that we see in our societies online. So what can we do? Let's maybe go go back to a chap, Buckminster Fuller. He had, I think, a good statement. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And that's a fundamentally new way of doing things. That doesn't mean, oh, we'll add some security experts like Facebook in order to avoid like this and that. No, we really need a fundamentally new way of building applications. And this is what we call Web3. So what's happening in the last few years is basically why we've had tools like and BitTorrent and end-to-end encryption. Like with blockchain, we got a really fundamentally new tool that let us do certain things that we couldn't do before. Building applications that stay useful even in like the most adverse conditions, where we can rely on what was promised to us will also be fulfilled. It lets us get away from this situation where we extend blanket trust to intermediaries. It certainly will reduce the divide between services providers and users. So how do we think about blockchain in that context? So to us, really, blockchain is that tool that lets us go beyond from don't do evil to can't do evil, because it has hard-coded rules. And Bitcoin is the prime example where you can rely on you sending a transaction that it will eventually end up with whoever you want to send it to. Sometimes it's maybe slow, but there's nobody that can prevent that from happening. And there's pros and cons, there's things that need fixing, but that's a fundamentally new innovation that came to us over 10 years ago. So what's the state of the chain? What's the state of all these projects? So while there are sort of simple technological problems, like how to make it more scalable, how to get transactions through faster, there's a fundamental problem with a much more fundamental problem with blockchains at this stage, which is in some ways blockchains behave a lot more like nation states and much less like corporate products. They need governance. They have a currency, and also they need governance and a currency and whatnot. And while a lot of people are working on making them better and more scalable, what we really need to work on is overcoming what we've come to call maximalism. It's a form of basically digital nationalism. The fact that you have this tool which has underlying this game theoretic interaction between all the players means there's a lot of entrenched interests. And because all the blockchains at this stage can't talk to each other, that leads to people becoming very opinionated, very nationalist about the particular chain that they work on. And the biggest problem with that is that it actually slows down innovation. It's one of the reasons why we haven't seen Bitcoin innovating faster. It's one of the reasons why Ethereum is very slow in overcoming a lot of the technological shortcomings at this stage, because entrenched interests become difficult to overcome. And that's what we're really focusing at Parity at the moment, like providing the tools for making sure that innovation can happen faster, because it's so much needed, because all the tools we're using at the moment in Web 2 are so broken. So two of the projects that we're working on are called Substrate and Polkadot. Think of Substrate a bit like the operating system for the future blockchain internet computer, like a tool that lets you really easily deploy a new blockchain specific to your use case. That could be payment or exchanging identity or exchanging medical records. And the other one is called Polkadot, the network interface that lets you overcome what I just described earlier with maximalism. It's a way of utilizing that there are already blockchain economies that have a user base, and you can tie into this network really easily, and you don't have to compete with the existing chains over those valuable networks. So if you want to learn more, we've launched an event last year, Web3 Summit. It's really dedicated to building out this future web stack for the web, because we think it's so much needed, and we want to bring together all the builders in the space like starting from blockchain, but also communication tools. There's a really interesting project called Matrix that tries to overcome all the barriers between the chat apps, like the fact that I have to be signed up to the same application that my friends are. Like I can't really easily also take my network of friends from WhatsApp to Telegram, say. And that's what we're bringing together later this year here in Berlin in August. So if you are interested, please come by. Yeah, thank you.